Welcome to Module 4 of Cells, Tissues and Regulation. Topic 4.1 will be an overview of the nervous system. During the course of this video, you can open your workbooks to Module 4 and try and answer as many questions as you can from Topic 4.1. The learning objectives for this topic are to describe the functions of sensory, motor and interneurons, to describe the organization of the nervous system in brief, review the different parts of a neuron and what they do, and to describe the structures and functions of glial cells in brief. The nervous system is the master controller and the communicating system for the body. The cells communicate via electrical and chemical signals, which are rapid and specific, resulting in almost immediate responses. Muscles contract to move joints, and this movement occurs under the control of the nervous system. The nervous system has three overlapping functions. It gathers information, which we call sensory input, via the millions of sensory receptors that monitor change both inside and outside the body. It then processes and interprets sensory input and decides what should be done at each moment. This process is called integration. And finally, the nervous system activates effector organs, the muscles and the glands, to cause a response called the motor output. The functions of the nervous system are best illustrated by an example of a thirsty person seeing and then lifting a glass of water. Here you can see in this image that the sensory receptors of the eye gather information about where the glass of water is. This input is then transferred to the brain via sensory neurons for processing and interpretation of the information. Once a response is decided upon, the information is then transferred by motor neurons to the muscle in order to produce a response, such as contracting the arm muscles to bend the elbow and bringing the glass of water towards the mouth for a drink. The sensory input is also known as afferent input, which is the information that is arriving at the brain for interpretation. Conversely, motor output, also known as efferent output, is information that is exiting the brain in order to elicit a response in the effector organs, for example the muscles. Humans have a highly integrated nervous system. The following diagram shows the organization of this system. The human nervous system is organized into two major divisions, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system, or CNS, consists of the brain and the spinal cord, which occupy the dorsal body cavity. The CNS is the integrating and control center of the nervous system. It is responsible for interpreting sensory input and dictating motor output based on reflexes, current condition, and past experience. The peripheral nervous system, or the PNS, is the part of the nervous system outside the CNS. The PNS consists mainly of nerves, or bundles of axons that extend from the brain, spinal cord, and ganglia. Ganglia are collections of neuronal cell bodies. Spinal nerves carry impulses to and from the spinal cord, and the cranial nerves carry impulses to and from the brain. These peripheral nerves serve as communication lines that link all parts of the body to the CNS. The PNS has two functional subdivisions. The sensory or afferent division, that consists of nerve fibers that convey impulses to the central nervous system from sensory receptors located throughout the body. The somatic sensory fibers convey impulses from the skin, skeletal muscles, and joints, whereas the visceral sensory fibers transmit impulses from the visceral organs, such as the organs in the thoracic and abdominopelvic cavity. It is the sensory division that keeps the CNS constantly informed of events going on both inside and outside the body. The motor, or efferent division of the PNS, transmits impulses from the CNS to the effector organs, or the muscles and glands. These impulses stimulate muscles to contract and glands to secrete. The somatic nervous system is composed of somatic motor nerve fibers that conduct nerve impulses from the CNS to skeletal muscle. The somatic nervous system is often referred to as the voluntary nervous system, as it allows us to control our skeletal muscles consciously. The autonomic nervous system consists of nerve fibers that control the activity of smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and some glands. Because we cannot control activities such as pumping of our heart, the autonomic nervous system is called the involuntary nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has two further subdivisions. The sympathetic nervous system, which mobilizes all of the body systems during activity, is also known as the fight and flight response system, whereas the parasympathetic division is responsible for conserving energy and is known as the rest and digest system. This slide is a review of the organization of the nervous system. The nervous system can be classified regarding inflammation flow. Afferent, or sensory neurons from various parts of the body, send signals to the central nervous system for processing. Efferent, or motor neurons, then transmit the process signals to the effector organs. The afferent and efferent neurons form the peripheral nervous system. The PNS can be divided into the sensory division and the motor division. The motor division is further divided into the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is further separated into the sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. Finally, the enteric nervous system is considered as the third division of the nervous system. However, this is not shown in the previous figure. Neurons are classified into three functional types. The sensory neurons transmit impulses from the sensory receptors in the skin or internal organs to the CNS. Most of the sensory neurons are unipolar. However, some sensory neurons in organs such as the eyes and the olfactory system are bipolar. Only the distal parts of those neurons act as impulse receptor sites. Motor neurons carry impulses away from the CNS and to the effector organ. Motor neurons are multipolar, except for the neurons of the autonomic nervous system. The interneurons lie between the motor and the sensory neurons in the neuronal pathway and shuttle signals through the CNS, where integration occurs. These interneurons are confined within the CNS. Although neuron structures vary, they all have a cell body and one or more axonal processes. The cell body of a neuron consists of a spherical nucleus surrounded by cytoplasm. The cell body is the biosynthetic center of a neuron and consists of the usual organelles, such as ribosomes and a rough endoplasmic reticulum, to synthesize proteins and other chemicals. Most neuron cell bodies are located in the CNS, where they are protected by the bones of the skull and the vertebral column. Proteins synthesized in the cell body of a neuron are then transported in vesicles to other regions along the microtubular network. Dendrites are branched extensions that are the main receptive or input regions of a neuron. Dendrites provide an enormous surface area for receiving signals or inputs from other neurons. The dendritic spines are thorny appendages with bulbous or spiky ends, and these represent points of close contact with other neurons, called synapses. Each neuron has a single axon, which arises from a cone-shaped area of the cell body, called the axon hillock. The length of an axon varies depending on the function of the nerve. For example, axons of a motor neuron controlling the skeletal muscles can extend up to 1 meter long from the spine to the foot, making it the longest cell structure in our body. In motor neurons, the nerve impulse is generated at the junction of the axon hillock and the axon. Axons then propagate action potentials along their length, and these signals are conducted along the axonal surface to the axon terminals very rapidly. The microtubule network transports nutrients and other substances to and from the cell body, but plays no role in transmitting electrical impulses. When the impulses reach the axon terminal, it causes the release of signaling chemicals, called neurotransmitters, into the extracellular space. Each neuron that receives a signal can send it on to other neurons through dendrite connections, thereby carrying the conversation to different organs, such as muscles or glands. Many nerve fibers that are particularly long and large in diameter are covered with myelin sheaths, which increases the speed of transmission of a neuron. In neurons of the peripheral nervous system, this myelin sheath is formed by Schwann cells that wrap around the axon. A synapse is a junction that mediates information transfer from one neuron to the next, or from one neuron to an effector cell in the form of an electrical or chemical signal. The neuron delivering the signal is called the presynaptic neuron, while the neuron or the cell receiving the electrical signal is called the postsynaptic neuron or target cell. Most neurons function as both presynaptic and postsynaptic neurons, as these neurons can have around 1,000 to 10,000 axon terminals, each making a synapse. Neurons associate closely with much smaller cells, called the glial cells, that support and insulate the neurons. There are a variety of glial cells in our nervous tissue. Astrocytes are the most abundant and versatile glial cells. These cells cling to neurons and nearby capillaries. Not only do astrocytes support and anchor the neurons, but they also separate them and act as their nutrient supply lines. Microglial cells can become macrophage-like cells that phagocytose microorganisms and dead neuronal tissue. The ependymal cells line the central cavities of the brain and spinal cord, where cerebrospinal fluid is secreted. The beating cilia present on the cells help circulate the cerebrospinal fluid. Finally, oligodendrocytes have a similar function to that of Schwann cells by producing the myelin sheath within the CNS. For many nerve fibers that are particularly long and large in diameter, the axons are covered in concentric layers of a whitish, fatty membrane that is made up of phospholipids, called the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath protects and electrically insulates the axon. Furthermore, because lipids are bad conductors of electricity, the presence of a myelin sheath increases the transmission speed of a nerve impulse, as the signal jumps from one node to another where the myelin sheath is absent. The nodes of Ranvier are the exposed regions of these axons, where the myelin sheath is not present. As mentioned previously, the oligodendrocytes line the thick nerve fibers in the CNS and produce myelin sheath around them, whilst Schwann cells produce myelin sheath around the nerve fibers of the PNS. From this video, we have learnt about the functions of the sensory, motor, and interneurons, the organization of the nervous system, different parts of a neuron and their function, and finally, the structure and function of glial cells.